On a Sunday morning, warm sunlight gently filtered through thin curtains, casting a soft golden glow across the floor. Sarah Matthews, a senior executive at a renowned consulting firm in Montreal, sat beside a cluttered desk piled high with documents. Everything around her was quiet, as if the entire city were still lost in a deep slumber. The only sounds echoing through the space were the faint hum of her computer and the rich aroma of coffee wafting from the steaming cup on her desk. Sarah had grown accustomed to these peaceful mornings. Though her job demanded constant focus and intensity, this time was hers alone. She cherished the stillness, the sense of control it gave her, even when outwardly it seemed everything was being swept along by the relentless pace of life. Looking out the window, she caught sight of the rose bush she'd bought the day before from a local farm shop, its deep red petals standing out vividly against the morning dew. The plant wasn't just a decoration for her living space, it symbolized rebirth, renewal. She smiled, recalling how she'd stood in front of the shop, pondering how long it had been since she'd last done something just for herself. Her gaze drifted to the stacks of documents on her desk, all critical projects demanding her attention in the week ahead. But in this moment, she wasn't in a hurry. Everything would come in its time, and she knew how to handle it. She picked up her coffee cup, took a sip, and let the warmth spread through her. Just as she prepared to dive back into her work, the phone rang, shattering the room's tranquility. Sarah glanced at the screen and saw the name of her company's CEO flashing. She took a deep breath, bracing herself for the call. "Sarah, I need you right now. There's an emergency at the main office. Can you make time to come in?" His voice crackled through, thick with urgency. Sarah sensed the tension in his tone, something rare from a man like him. She stood up quickly, the peace of the morning slipping away. A flicker of unease crept into her chest. "All right, I'll be there immediately," she replied, striving to stay calm. "What's wrong? We're facing a serious issue with a major client. Some information has leaked, and it could damage the company's reputation. We need you here to handle it." The call ended abruptly. Sarah set her coffee down, swiftly gathered her documents, and tidied her desk in a practiced motion. But her mind was no longer on her work. Tension surged in her chest as she thought about what awaited her at the main office. Pausing for a moment as she stepped out of her study, Sarah took a deep breath. She knew situations like this were part of the job, but the weight of the pressure still pressed heavily on her shoulders. She'd wanted just a little more time to savor the morning's calm, but now it was gone. She left the house and headed to her car parked in the driveway. As she drove, chaotic thoughts about work, responsibility, and looming crises swirled in her mind. Part of her wanted to forget it all, to return to the serene moments of earlier that morning. But she knew that, as a senior executive, there was no room for hesitation. Every decision could shift the tide. Speeding down the road, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the choices she'd made in the past. Was she on the right path? Was her career consuming too much of her life? But there was no time for self-doubt now. Work didn't wait, and she had to face it head-on. A part of her yearned for the comfort of family and friends, the steady support she could always lean on when exhaustion set in. But today, right now, work took precedence. She had to do something to protect the company, to safeguard the values she'd worked so hard to build. The tension grew as she neared the office building. Sarah felt a shift in the air. Everything was on the brink of erupting. Steeling herself, she stepped inside, determined not to let anxiety overwhelm her. As sunlight streamed through the window, casting gentle golden streaks across the wooden floor, Sarah sank into a comfortable armchair, savoring a rare moment of peace. A sense of calm washed over her as she briefly set aside the chaos of work and life. But just then, her iPhone buzzed sharply, breaking the silence. "Sarah, can you come over today?" Her sister Jennifer's voice came through the speaker. Instantly, a wave of unease enveloped her, and Sarah knew this wouldn't be simple. She sighed, trying to suppress the irritation bubbling up inside her. "Mom's coming too, we're having brunch," Jennifer continued, leaving no room for protest. The words felt like Jennifer was deliberately dragging her into yet another uncomfortable family gathering. "Mom?" Sarah knew this wouldn't just be a casual meal like before. Her mother, a woman who often created tense, stern atmospheres, would turn this into a conversation filled with sharp glances and biting remarks. Yet Sarah couldn't say no family was still family. An hour later, she arrived at Jennifer's luxurious villa in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Montreal. Standing before the iron gate, Sarah felt a pang of suffocation. A sleek Range Rover sat in the driveway, a glaring symbol of Jennifer's wealth and polished perfection. Seeing it, Sarah couldn't help but think of the stark contrast between her sister's life and her own. A twinge of inadequacy surfaced within her. Her steps felt heavy as she climbed the front stairs. The door swung open before she could knock, and there stood Jennifer, smiling with a hint of smugness. "Sarah, you're here," Jennifer said, her voice sweet but laced with satisfaction. She pulled Sarah inside, guiding her through a grand hallway. "Mom just arrived. We were only waiting for you." "Yeah," Sarah replied curtly, her eyes scanning the villa. A sense of alienation crept in, as if she were an outsider in her own family. The spacious dining room featured a large round table draped in a pristine white cloth, adorned with elegantly arranged dishes. Her mother sat at the head, her piercing eyes locking onto Sarah as she entered. "You're here," her mother said, her tone stern and devoid of the warmth typical of family meals. Sarah felt the chill in her voice, despite its simplicity. She nodded and took a seat across from her. The air grew thick with tension. Sarah couldn't help but recall past gatherings, where sitting with her mother and sister always left her feeling like an intruder. Jennifer broke the silence, refusing to let the mood linger too long. "How have you been? How's work?" she asked casually, as if nothing were amiss. Sarah looked up, her exhaustion evident in her eyes. "Fine," she said, unwilling to delve into the stresses weighing her down, the company issues, the unresolved changes. They were just facades she didn't want to share, especially not here with her mother and Jennifer. Her mother's gaze sharpened. "Yet I haven't seen you around the company much lately. Do you even remember what you're supposed to be doing?" Anger flared inside Sarah, but she fought to stay composed. "I'm still handling my work, Mom," she replied, keeping her emotions in check. Jennifer interjected, her eyes glinting with challenge. "You know, Mom's always worried about you. You keep chasing things that don't matter while everyone else moves forward." The words stung like a slap, not just for what Jennifer said, but for the helplessness they stirred in Sarah. "Thanks for the concern," she replied coolly, her voice tinged with weary sarcasm. Silence settled over the room until her mother spoke again, her tone a warning. "Sarah, you need to start doing something truly worthwhile. You can't keep living in the shadows of those around you." Sarah swallowed the lump in her throat. She couldn't continue this conversation. Her eyes drifted to the window, where a soft breeze rustled the trees outside. She felt trapped in a space with no escape, where every decision and choice was crushed under the weight of family expectations. "I'll think about it," she said, standing and quietly leaving the dining room, the air still heavy with unspoken criticism. She didn't know what would happen next, but one thing Sarah was certain of: she wouldn't let these encounters paralyze her freedom forever. Sarah felt a surge of excitement as she stepped through the door of her sister's home. The modern, sprawling villa glimmered under warm golden lights, a testament to Jennifer's refined taste and wealth. Designed by a renowned architect, the interior boasted exquisite decor and open spaces flooded with natural light. The aroma of freshly prepared food filled the air, easing her heart. She entered the spacious living room, where an array of elaborate dishes adorned a long dining table: seafood sandwiches, truffle-topped eggs, Benedict, premium cheeses, and elegant glasses of red wine, all exuding luxury and reflecting Jennifer's sophisticated lifestyle. Sarah glanced around, the soft glow of the ambient lighting making her feel somewhat out of place. It was as if she'd stepped into a world vastly different from her everyday life. "Hey, Sarah!" a cheerful voice called, snapping her out of her thoughts. Jennifer swept in, her bright smile dazzling as she wore an expensive Louis Vuitton dress, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. All eyes in the room turned to her, and Jennifer seemed to revel in the attention. "You're late," she said, her tone light but edged with sharpness, her pride unmistakable. "Don't tell me you'll miss out on the seafood sandwiches, little sis." Sarah forced a smile, trying to blend into the festive atmosphere that increasingly felt alien to her. But Jennifer's piercing gaze soon made her feel like a stranger in this house. She couldn't deny the glaring disparity between her life and her sister's. Before Sarah could respond, Jennifer pressed on, her voice still soft but pointed. "Next month, the family's going on a retreat to Hawaii. Exciting, right? You won't have to keep being the single workaholic anymore, will you?" She winked, settling into a plush chair, watching Sarah for a reaction. Tension washed over Sarah. Jennifer's words struck a nerve. A mix of shame and unease left her momentarily speechless. It was hard to face the truth that her life didn't mirror the polished success Jennifer flaunted. "You!" Sarah began, her voice hoarse with hesitation. "What do you mean by that?" Jennifer didn't answer immediately, offering only a faint, dismissive smile. She reached for her wine glass, swirling it gently. "Nothing, just that you should rest and enjoy life a bit. Don't worry so much about things you can't change. It'll get better once you learn to let go." A heavy silence stretched between them. Sarah stared at her sister, torn by conflicting emotions. She couldn't deny part of her envied Jennifer's effortless charm and admiration from others. But then she thought of her own struggles, the sacrifices she'd made for the life she had. Taking a deep breath, she refused to let herself be diminished any longer. "Jen, I don't need to live like you. I have my own path, and I'm proud of what I'm doing," she said firmly. Jennifer raised an eyebrow, surprised by Sarah's shift in tone, but shrugged it off. "Suit yourself, Sarah. Just don't struggle too long. Life could be so much easier if you'd let it." The evening drifted on, in a haze of disjointed conversations and loaded glances. But this time, Sarah no longer felt the need to hide or shrink away. She'd made her choice despite the world's pressure to conform. She wouldn't change. She was proud of herself and would live true to her path. The tension in the room began to dissipate, but one truth remained clear. Everyone had their own life to live, and Sarah knew she'd always fight to hold fast to what she believed in. Montreal's Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport buzzed with weekend activity, but today felt different. Sarah Matthews stood silently before the flight information board, her eyes scanning the updates mechanically. A faint wave of unease stirred in her chest as she spotted the words, "Flight 417, cancelled. Reason, unspecified." Panic gripped her, muddling everything around her into chaos. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she glanced at the ticket in her hand. No clear explanation for the cancellation. She rubbed her face, struggling to stay calm. Her phone vibrated. She opened the message, hoping for clarity about the flight. Instead, a cold, curt text from Jennifer appeared. "I've left Emma and Olivia at the airport. I'll take care of them. Don't look for me." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. She couldn't believe her eyes. Emma and Olivia, Jennifer's daughters, abandoned at the airport with no explanation. Fury surged within her, but something deeper overpowered it. Dread. She rushed to the information desk, but the airport felt anything but normal. The hurried chaos offered no help, and she couldn't spot anyone in the crowd who could assist. Images of the girls, wide-eyed, lost, haunted her mind. Unable to sit still, Sarah dashed toward the departure lounge, her hurried steps blending into the clamor of travelers. Each passing second tightened the knot of anxiety within her, as if everything were crumbling. Jennifer wouldn't do this, she told herself, only to counter, then why did she? Her phone buzzed again. She answered quickly, hoping for an explanation. Instead, Jennifer's icy voice cut through. "Sarah, I don't want to see you again. Don't look for me. It's over. The words hit like a bucket of cold water. Everything blurred. She couldn't fathom why Jennifer would act this way, or abandon her own children in a strange place without reason. Despair began to take hold. Sarah hurried to a nearby seating area. A boy, about 7, sat clutching a backpack, his eyes meeting hers briefly before dropping. Seeing kids like him, lost, alone, twisted her heart. Questions spun relentlessly in her mind. Where was Jennifer? Why would she do this? How could she find the girls? A voice broke her spiral. Sarah, who are you looking for? She turned to see Mark, an old friend she hadn't seen in years. A tech investor with influential connections, he stood there, concern etched on his face. Mark, I'm looking for my sister. Jennifer left her kids here, and I don't know how to find them, she snapped, her pent-up frustration sharpening her words. Mark frowned, his expression serious. That's a big deal. If you need help, I'm here. But you need to calm down, don't let emotions take over, he said gently, yet firmly. Sarah bristled, but knew he was trying to help. She took a deep breath, nodded. Thanks, Mark. Please help me find them. Mark pulled out his phone, quickly coordinating with airport staff. Sarah tried to steady herself, but worry gnawed at her. She couldn't let her nieces remain in danger, alone without care. Minutes later, Mark returned with news. They've found the kids. They're in the waiting area near the ticket gates. I've alerted the staff they'll assist, he said. Relief flooded Sarah momentarily. Things seemed brighter, if only slightly. Yet unanswered questions lingered. Why had Jennifer abandoned her children? Could she salvage their fractured family? Sarah's heart churned as she spotted the 2 children sitting alone in the airport's waiting area. Their eyes darted around, bewildered and lost, tears streaking their faces. They were no longer the carefree kids she'd known. Now they bore a burden that shouldn't have been theirs. Unable to hold back, Sarah approached and knelt beside them, offering a gentle smile to ease their fears. But her heart ached at their distress. Why are you here alone? She asked softly, her voice laced with concern. Ethan, the younger one, looked up with teary eyes. Mom told us to wait here. His voice faltered, as if he couldn't grasp what was happening. But she didn't come back. The simple words pierced Sarah like a knife, confirming something was terribly wrong, far beyond what Jennifer had claimed. Sarah took their hands, trying to comfort them. Don't worry, you won't be here long. I'll help you. But as she spoke, unease swelled within her. This couldn't be a coincidence. After bringing the kids home, Sarah couldn't stop replaying the scene. Questions swirled relentlessly. Why abandon them at the airport? Digging into Jennifer's actions, she uncovered something unbelievable. Jennifer wasn't the sister Sarah thought she knew. She'd hidden a dark financial secret. Sarah discovered Jennifer had drained the kids' education funds, money meant for their future, to fuel her extravagant vacations and cover mounting debts. Bank statements and transactions laid bare the truth. She'd deceived the entire family. Sarah couldn't believe what she was reading. It felt like a brutal blow, shattering everything around her. Her sister, once seen as strong, smart, reliable, had sabotaged her own children's future for selfish gain. Why? How could she do this to them? Rage ignited within Sarah like a wildfire. She knew what she had to do. This couldn't continue. She called her mother not for advice, but to warn her and clarify the situation. She's doing something wrong, Mom, Sarah said, her voice losing its usual calm. Jennifer took the kids' money, and now they're paying for her selfishness. I can't let this go on. Her mother fell silent, then spoke, her tone heavy with disbelief. What? Sarah, what are you saying? Jennifer's my daughter. I can't believe she'd do this. But be careful, don't act rashly. Disappointment sank in, but Sarah wouldn't back down. Mom, I can't let the kids live in this lie. I'll protect them. After the call, Sarah resolved to confront Jennifer face to face. She couldn't let these secrets keep hurting innocent children. Driving to Jennifer's lavish villa, her heart pounded with each determined step. Stepping inside, the air thickened with tension. Jennifer stood in the living room, unfazed, as if she'd anticipated this showdown. "Why are you here?" Jennifer asked, her voice defensive despite her calm facade. Sarah didn't answer immediately. She stepped closer, her eyes resolute. "You can't keep living this lie. You took the kids' money. You betrayed the family. Why?" Jennifer turned away, gripping the chair's edge. "You don't understand, Sarah. I had to take care of my family. I couldn't keep living in scarcity. The kids won't lack anything, you don't need to worry. That's no excuse to hurt them," Sarah shouted, unable to hold back. "You're ruining their future for your selfish choices. If you don't stop, I'll do whatever it takes to protect them." Jennifer spun back, her gaze icy. "What will you do? You wouldn't dare." Sarah met her sister's eyes, unwavering. "I'll protect them, no matter the cost." Since Jennifer and Michael returned from their vacation, Sarah sensed a palpable shift in the family dynamic. Gone were the fake smiles and sweet words masking reality. Everything unraveled, and Sarah knew the kids couldn't endure their parents' irresponsibility and cruelty any longer. Determined to shield them, she strategized tirelessly. She couldn't let them grow up in a world of deceit and neglect. She gathered evidence, meticulously quiet conversations, Jennifer's blatant disregard for her children, all documented with care. Day by day, she reached out to authorities and consulted lawyers, building a solid case. "I can't ignore this. I can't let them grow up in this mess," she thought, her hands clutching the papers and proof she'd spent months collecting. The sleepless nights weren't easy. Doubt, fear, and pressure weighed on her mind. "Am I strong enough for this fight?" she wondered. But her resolve kept her standing. The day arrived. Sarah filed a lawsuit not just for Jennifer and Michael's negligence, but to spare the kids further harm from their parents. Facing a wealthy, powerful family, she knew it wouldn't be simple. Yet thinking of the children fueled her strength. The first day in court was suffocatingly tense. Sarah stood beside her lawyer, staring at Jennifer, who smirked coldly. Michael, Jennifer's ex-husband, stood nearby, arms crossed, looking like a cornered animal. "You really think you can win?" Jennifer taunted. "You're just a single mom. How could you take us on?" Sarah felt the sting of her words, but refused to buckle. "I don't need to take you on," she replied steadily. "I just need to protect the kids from your cruelty, and I'll do it at any cost." As the case unfolded, the courtroom hushed, following every move. Sarah's evidence recordings, photos, documents proving the kids' neglect and suffering intensified the atmosphere. Jennifer and Michael could no longer deny their wrongs. Their defenses crumbled, and all eyes turned to them. Financial fraud, child abandonment, and more charges came to light. Soon, both were arrested, a shock to the family and the public alike. Unbelievable, Sarah thought, her heart racing as police escorted them away. Though she'd prepared for this, the reality stunned her. She looked at the kids, their innocent eyes finally free from haunting days. The case exploded in the media, dominating headlines with tales of Jennifer and Michael's crimes. But for Sarah, the real victory was doing right. She'd protected the children. On the final sentencing day, watching Jennifer and Michael convicted, Sarah felt no triumph, only relief. Peace knowing the kids were safe from their parents' shadows. "You did the right thing," her lawyer said, patting her shoulder. "No one could have predicted this outcome, but you persevered. That's what matters." Sarah smiled faintly. This legal battle wasn't just a win in court, it was a triumph of spirit. She'd done what was right, and the kids were safe. That was worth more than any victory. Sarah Matthews stood in a sunlit room, gazing at family photos on the wall. They depicted a family she never imagined she'd have. Emma and Olivia, the girls her sister abandoned, now living with her as her own daughters. Her life had transformed from sleepless nights of worry to days filled with the warmth of love in every moment. Life wasn't always easy. Taking in Emma and Olivia after Jennifer left them brought countless challenges. Adjusting to caring for two kids and helping them heal from losing their mother was no small feat. Sarah faced sleepless nights, soothing them bedside as past shadows lingered in her mind. Why doesn't Mom come back? 6-year-old Emma, with her wide eyes, asked repeatedly. Each time, Sarah's heart broke, unsure how to respond. She'd just hold Emma tight and whisper, "Your mom loves you so much, but now you have me. I'll always be here." Time passed, and though it didn't get easier, Sarah learned to face her own pain. She found joy in simple things: morning breakfasts, bedtime stories, weekend movie nights, holding hands. Love wasn't just an idea anymore. It was a force that changed everything. A year later came a special day, Emma and Olivia's 6th birthday. Sarah threw a small party in their backyard garden, a modest space that had witnessed their key moments. Bright balloons floated overhead, colorful cakes lined the table, and the crisp spring air made everything perfect. Sarah stood by a large cake, 2 candles glowing. 1, 2, 3. "Happy birthday," she sang with the kids and close family friends. Laughter rang out, filling her with happiness. Their life wasn't flawless, but it was theirs, and that mattered most. After cutting the cake, Sarah took Emma and Olivia to play with friends in the garden. She sat on a wooden bench under a tree, watching them run and chat, feeling at ease. The past no longer weighed her down; she'd moved beyond it, proud of this new life. "Can I make a cake like that?" Olivia asked, her bright eyes shining as she grabbed Sarah's hand. Sarah smiled, brushing her hair. "Of course! You'll make one even better than mine," she replied, her heart full. In that moment, Sarah recalled her lonely past, struggling with unshared sorrows. Now, with Emma and Olivia, everything had changed. She wasn't just their protector, she was their guide, their mother in every way. Their life, born from fragments of pain, had grown whole. Sarah found joy in building this new family not from perfection, but from genuine love and care. The kids taught her that nothing mattered more than family and togetherness. As dusk fell, Sarah watched the kids play under the sunset's glow. She smiled, relieved. "I did the right thing," she thought. "This new life is all I need." Heading back to their cozy home, Sarah knew that whatever the future held, she'd have her family, those she loved and protected. That was everything. A year had passed since Sarah stood amid her family's wreckage, feeling like she faced an insurmountable storm. But time, like a miraculous balm, healed wounds she thought would never fade. Her life was no longer a blur of fear and burden. She'd emerged from darkness, and a new future glimmered ahead. She sat in her small home, peace enveloping every corner. The kids had grown, their eyes now sparkling with hope she couldn't see a year ago. Ethan, the boy from the airport, brimmed with energy, while Lily, once a source of worry, now smiled and embraced life. Sarah saw herself in them. These kids she'd fought to protect were now her greatest joy. Weekends brought cooking, gardening, and quiet afternoons reading together. These simple moments became treasures she'd once only dreamed of. Laughter and chatter filled the house, proof of the change she'd wrought. That afternoon, as the clock ticked into evening, Sarah and the kids gathered around the dinner table. The meal was humble, but love made it enough. "I learned something new today," Lily said, her eyes aglow. Sarah smiled warmly. "Oh? What's that?" she asked. Lily paused, then said, "It's about never giving up, no matter how hard things get. I think you're like that. You didn't give up, even when it was tough." She gripped her chopsticks, adding, "You taught me how to stand up, even when everything's awful." Emotion clogged Sarah's throat. She turned to Ethan, who grinned and nodded. "I remember when you said you'd protect us no matter what. I'm so glad we have you." Their simple words felt like the world to her. She realized her past struggles had forged her inner strength. These kids had shown her that love and care were priceless. She wasn't just their guardian, they were her drive to keep going. All right, Sarah thought. The world out there might be harsh, but in this home, where we stand together, I've built a real family. It was a family born of sweat, tears, and sacrifice. One night, as everyone slept, Sarah sat alone in the living room, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the space. She gazed at old photos on the shelf, happy family moments. She no longer felt sadness or fear, only faith in what she had. She'd forged a new life from the ashes of the past. Now, she wasn't alone in carrying the load. Her family moved forward together, ready for whatever lay ahead. In that quiet moment, she recalled a year ago battling not just Jennifer, but herself. Her sister's mistakes had plunged them into chaos, but those trials taught her that family wasn't just blood. It was the people you chose and fought for. Now, basking in her home's warm light, Sarah knew that no matter the storms outside, she and the kids had each other. They'd face every challenge together, a true family built on love, forgiveness, and unwavering resolve. Closing the book she'd been reading, Sarah glanced at the night sky through the window. A year had passed, and her life had changed forever. She was proud of what she'd achieved, and eager for the road ahead, not just for herself, but for those she loved. Whatever trials came, she'd stand firm.